Hey guys, I'm back. Feel a lot better today than I did yesterday. I know I made two videos yesterday, and one of the videos I was really sick and the other one not so much, or just kind of hyped up a little bit about what I was talking about, so I wasn't feeling it as much. But today, definitely much better. I don't know if you can tell from looking at the video before and looking at the video after, but definitely much better, and I will spare you showing my tongue. My tongue's clearing up, but I still kind of coat it, but not as bad as what it was. And of course, standing up today, not as big, which is, oh, I just got blurry. Sorry, my camera got blurry on you. No, actually, last night I went to bed. I ended up waking up with very fast heart rates, but just kept falling back to sleep. At one point, I checked it. I have that little clip-on thing that I showed you the other day. It's like 140, and then this morning it was 92, and it's been the 90s, high 80s all day, so not too bad, especially for me and especially with what you guys know I go through. So I want to first talk about some books that I got. One of them I mentioned to you before, so I guess I'll talk about that one first. Never read the book before, but read a lot of stuff online about it and different things, and it's called Against the Grain. And this talks a lot about how, well, it says Against the Grain, how agriculture has hijacked civilization. And what I want to talk about a little bit with that is just that when you eat, or animals and us, okay, suppose you eat an apple and you eat the whole apple, some of the seeds will stay intact, and that means it'll pass right through your digestive system, come out the other end, and nature uses that as fertilizer, and it goes to the ground, and then the plant will grow, okay? Pretty much with all fruits and vegetables that can happen with any animal, not just us. And what ends up happening is when you eat grains, that's not what happens. Grains have to be very processed. Wheat, corn's a grain, not a vegetable. Barley, all of those things. That's not what happens. Now, if we were to eat raw grain, we get pretty sick. Except for corn, I think we can eat raw corn. But our body's not really meant for that. And if you look at hunter and gatherer societies, most of them eat fruits, vegetables, insect, and meat. And when you look at them, they have all different ranges of what they're eating. Some of them are like 80% fruits and vegetable, a little bit of insect, and some meat. Other ones are more 50-50 with the meat, fruits, and vegetable. But they all tend to eat insects, and we don't do that as a culture, at least not in the United States and most European countries. We kind of frown upon that. But you go to other places in the world, and they have scorpions on a stick and stuff like that. So definitely look into that book. Again, it's Against the Grain, and you can find that a lot of autoimmune diseases are probably being caused by eating grains. Now, I'll tell you, I have tried diets before. I have wrote about diets before and made videos about diets before that talked about not using grains. It's extremely hard. I'm going to attempt it again soon, next couple of weeks. I would like to attempt it soon, and that doesn't mean I will, because I made a whole video series on like an MSG-free diet, and I still have not got around to actually doing that yet. I know some people emailed me and said, "Did you do it yet? Did it help? Did it help?" I didn't do it. I know I have this habit, and I'm sure you guys have it too. It's I know what to do. I don't do it because I'm lazy or I don't feel well, or I just don't get around to it. And you would think if you feel as sick as we do that we would do it, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you know what to do, you just don't do it. Potatoes and beans are not grains. It's probably not something we should be eating though anyway, but that's something I'm going to transition to. When I drop the grains, I'm going to go to potatoes, beans, some nuts. If I eat too many nuts, I get cramps, so I can't do that. Too much. Fruits, vegetables, and meats, which include all meats, seafood, fish, stuff like that. And also with the juicer, you can juice fruits and vegetables. I juice more vegetables than fruits just because I have that pre-diabetic thing. I don't want to get too much sugar into my system. The other book that I happen to come across, I have Google alerts where they send me information on vitamin C, vitamin D, lysine. I have those set up, and I came across this book called Embrace, Release, Heal. Now, I haven't read this, and I'm not entirely sure what it's about, but from what I understood before I bought it, It's a woman who I believe had cancer twice. She did mainstream therapy, chemo, radiation, surgery, and then her cancer came back. She did it again, and then her cancer came back a third time, and they told her that she's not basically going to survive it, that she's going to, die. And so she went into the whole alternative medicine thing, and she ended up living, and she's still alive. That's at least what my understanding was from it, but I haven't read it yet, but I think that's the gist of it. Now, Chronically Kylie, who is on YouTube, I should post her link sometime. I probably won't this time, but she has pretty bad POTS. And this book she had mentioned, and I got it because I want to read it, and it is called God Needs Me. Now, she pointed out that if you're not religious, there's a lot of prayers in this book, which you can kind of just gloss over and go through the rest. Like with any book, I say, take the meat, leave the bones. Whatever was working for you, take it. Whatever doesn't work for you, leave it. And this is one of the, I think, either the first woman or one of the first women who had dysautonomia. And it talks about her struggle and the final diagnosis, which allowed other people to be diagnosed with that particular condition. And this one's not that big, so might be worth, looking into. It is by Lynn Fox Adams. So that's something to look into. But the next thing I want to talk about today, it's going to be a brief video, is just being humble. Being a person, I have problems with that. I'm sure you do too. But I think it's important to always, keep that in mind, that you should be humble. Some people are more attractive than others, but that's always by societal standards. We deem through magazines and through television what's attractive. If being overweight is not attractive, being thin is attractive, having a certain color eye is attractive, not having that's not attractive, and a certain skin color. But you didn't get to pick what shell you got to live in. Like, I'm inside this shell. I could have just have been easily born into a shell of a heavyset black woman, a very thin Asian man. It'd still be me. And so you never want to forget for a second that when people are like, oh, you're so attractive, or you're not attractive, you didn't pick your shell. This is just what you're inside. And I just think that, I was talking to someone earlier, it's just something that I think is important to keep in mind, because you never know, the person who classically is not attractive might be the nicest friend in the world, and the person who you search after, the woman, man that you find attractive, might be someone who's the biggest jerk in the world. And the other things go on with, oh, well, my house is big. I have a great big house in California. I have a great big house in Florida, wherever. And I have an apartment. Why are you better? Well, because my house is bigger. No. I mean, think about that for a second, people. Your car is not who you are. Your house is not who you are. Your job is not who you are. It's like, I think I may have said before, people say, I'm a lawyer. No, you're not a lawyer. That's what you do. You are something else. And just as an experiment, I want to point something out to you. The next time you're upset and you're crying, okay, because it's one of the easier ways to do it. When you're crying, you have an awareness in your mind that you're crying, okay? And then you have an awareness of the awareness that you're crying. So now it's like different levels back. You're crying, you're aware you're crying, and you're aware that you're crying. And way in the back of your mind is just a very silent thing that's just observing. It doesn't have emotion, it doesn't have fear, it's not happy, it's just looking. And you can find that. Now, I found that quite easily in Benzo withdrawal because it was so painful, I just wanted to get out of my body. And there's different, books about things like that, which I had read before, but I never got it. And now there just is this thing. Way in the back of your head. And even if you're happy right now, just think that you're happy. You know that you're happy. And you know that you're happy. What's behind that? And that's you. That's the real you, the real entity that you are. Not sure if that's making any sense, but that's all I really have for today. I'm going to upload this and then think if I can think of anything to talk about tomorrow. If not, it might be a while before I make another video. What I would like to do is, when I go grain-free and dairy-free, because I have problems with that, I would like to do a video every day. I don't know if I will, because like everyone else, I get lazy, I get sidetracked, I don't want to. And one of the problems that I have is when I do change my diet, I feel awful. I go through this period of detox, and I can sit there and eat a whole plate of potatoes and a little bit of meat, and that should be enough food for anybody. And I feel like I'm starving to death, like I'm going to pass out. And so I want to get into it, and I want to document it, but at the same time, I don't even know if it's possible. It would be a good time to do the MSG free diet, because by default, the things I want to be eating will be MSG free. So we'll see if I do that, if it happens or not. But anyway, I will talk to you all soon. Oh, you know what? One last thing. Someone's been, sorry, my phone's ringing. Someone had said, you know, you should go back on Xanax because your heart's too fast. And I don't know if they saw the Xanax withdrawal Welcome to Hell video. And I said, you know, I'd rather die than do that. And I mean that. I would rather be dead than ever take Xanax again, or any Benzo, for that matter. I don't think people understand the depths of what that did to me. Maybe even watching that video, if that person had. It's the most traumatizing thing that I've ever been through, and death would be a welcome relief than ever having to go through that again. And for me, I guess I don't understand how people don't get what I really meant when I said what happened. I know people who've been through benzo withdrawal, you know, they understand. I know there's many people who watch me that take it here and there, don't have a problem with it yet. I've taken, just for the record, I took benzos before. I didn't have a problem, as many people who took benzos did not have a problem when they came off several times. And this is like, it's one of those things that catch you, and you will become just the sick. If you're one of the unlucky ones, you will become sicker beyond belief, and it's something that you never want to mentally and physically go through. And I'd rather have my heart be 140, you know, some days, and I'd rather be sick like I was yesterday than ever, you know, deal with that again. And it's just not for me. I don't have a lot of trust anymore in medications. I think it was the same person, maybe it was someone else, who said, well, why don't you take a beta blocker? Well, I would take a beta blocker, maybe, if I knew why my heart was that fast. You know, it's just, if they're going to tell me it's anxiety, then no, I'm not going to take a beta blocker, because I know, being me and being inside my own body, that that's not what's causing the fast heart rate. I lived with anxiety for a very long time before I ever took benzos, and I'm not just going to pop a beta blocker and cover something up that could very well be a warning sign to something else that's going on with me. I look at a lot of things as symptoms, and if my heart's going fast, that's a symptom of something else. And if my echo was fine, my EKG was fine, and if I know I'm not having anxiety, I'm not going to cover up a whole bunch of stuff until I know what's wrong. Now, if they said, oh no, you have this, and I could see that I had that, whatever that was, well then yeah, maybe I would take a beta blocker. I'm not completely against medication all the time, but I'm not covering something up that I know is not wrong. You know, it's just a lot of times, just to a lesser extent, you know, people are diagnosed with GERD just by giving symptoms, and they never check people. I mean, like, they didn't give them upper GI to make sure, or even an endoscopy to make sure that they actually had GERD. They said, you have a GERD, here's these pills. No, I mean, that's not cool. You should be checked. They should actually see that you have GERD, because you could be covering up something, you know, God forbid, like stomach cancer. And the reason why I say that is, and the reason for my own concerns with my stomach, and not panic and dread and anxiety, but concern, is my mother's father was dead at 40 years old from stomach cancer. He was diagnosed with stomach cancer, I believe, at 36 years old, and I'm now 35 years old. So I've been having stomach problems for the past couple years, which I know was triggered by the Xanax, but it's still in the back of my head that I have a lot of similarities to that particular grandfather on my mother's side. And so, like, yeah, of course it's concerning to me. Do I stay up at night over it? No, you know. Um, but it just goes back to don't just let people, let doctors or anyone tell you, it's just heartburn. Well, then you better prove it. Like, do a test, make sure it is, and then you're fine, Just don't walk around being in pain, having them up the dose and up the dose and up the dose, and not know what's really going on. All right, so let you go for today. Talk to you all later. Barley, all of those things. That's not what happens. Now, if we were to eat raw grain, we get pretty sick. Except for corn, I think we can eat raw corn. But our body's not really meant for that. And if you look at hunter and gatherer societies, most of them eat fruits, vegetables, insect, and meat. And when you look at them, they have all different ranges of what they're eating. Some of them are like 80% fruits and vegetable, a little bit of insect, and some meat. Other ones are more 50-50 with the meat, fruits, and vegetable. To first talk about some books that I got. One of them I mentioned to you before, so I guess I'll talk about that one first. Never read the book before, but read a lot of stuff online about it and different things. And it's called Against the Grain. And this talks a lot about how, it says Against the Grain, how agriculture has hijacked civilization. And what I want to talk about a little bit with that is just that when you eat, or animals and us, okay, suppose you eat an apple and you eat the... Hey guys, I'm back. Feel a lot better today than I did yesterday. I know I made 2 videos yesterday, and one of the videos I was really sick and the other one not so much, or just kind of hyped up a little bit about what I was talking about, so I wasn't feeling it as much. But today, definitely much better. I don't know if you can tell from looking at the video before and looking at the video after, but definitely much better, and I will spare you showing my tongue. My tongue's clearing up, but I still kind of coat it, but not as bad as what it was. Whole apple. Some of the seeds will stay intact, and that means it'll pass right through your digestive system, come out the other end, and nature uses that as fertilizer, and it goes to the ground, and then the plant will grow, okay? Pretty much with all fruits and vegetables that can happen with any animal, not just us. And what ends up happening is when you eat grains, that's not what happens. Grains have to be very processed. Wheat, corn's a grain, not a vegetable. Barley. And of course, standing up today, not as big, which is, I just got blurry. Sorry, my camera got blurry on you. No, actually last night I went to bed. I ended up waking up with very fast heart rates, but just kept falling back to sleep. At one point I checked it. I have that little clip-on thing that I showed you the other day. It's like 140, and then this morning it was 92, and it's been the 90s, high 80s all day, so not too bad, especially for me and especially with what you guys know I go through. So I want to